reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Lord, open our minds to understand his words, so lips may proclaim it in our hearts that we might live it. Well, I invite you to be seated for the reading of the Gospel, and I will explain the Gospel as we go. It's a little longer than normal. So at the very end, when I say the Gospel of the Lord, if you would stand for the acclamation. Now, this is a very familiar Gospel. It is that of the prodigal son. And we have all heard it many times over our lifetime. But I would like to point out a few things that perhaps you never considered in the past. So there are several groups here. We have the sinners, and we have the self-righteous, and then we have the parable of the two sons. And at any time in our life, we could be any one of them. Notice that the Scripture does not name them by name. And when that happens, especially in Luke's Gospel, it could be us. So as you hear the story, ask yourself, who am I most identifying with at this time? Sinners, the self-righteous, one of the sons, or God, the Father? Because we are called to be like God. But are we ever? The tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to listen to Jesus. But the scribes and the Pharisees began complaining. We know complainers. This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So to them, Jesus addressed this parable. A man had two sons. The younger son said to his father, "Father, give me the share of your inheritance that should come to me." Now that's a very insulting thing to say to your dad, especially in Jesus' culture. It's as though he's saying, "You are dead to me, give me what's coming to me." And in reality, he owes us nothing. And a father who would be addressed this way in that culture, and perhaps even in ours, would get his back up, become very angry, and maybe even disown the son. But what does this father do? So the father divided the property between them. And notice, he divided it between the two sons. So he gave the older son his inheritance as well. And after a few days, the younger son collected all his belongings and set off for a distant country. Because when things mean more to us than relationships, we are distant from everybody that matters. He squandered his inheritance on a life of dissolute living. So things and experiences and pleasures become more important than relationships. So is the story for those who get caught in addictions. When he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. So he hired himself out to one of the local citizens, who sent him to his farm to tend the swine. Now realize, Jesus is telling this story to his Jewish people. It's about as low as you can get to be tending swine for the Jewish people. And he's not only tending swine, he identifies with them so much, he wants to eat what they eat. And we become what we eat. And he longed to eat his fill of the pods on which the swine fed, but nobody gave him anything. The only one who gave him everything was his father, who he abandoned. Coming to his senses, he thought, how many of my father's hired workers have more than enough to eat? But here I am, dying from hunger. I shall get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. Treat me as you would treat one of your hired workers. So he loses faith even in himself. And he no longer sees himself as a son. He's hit rock bottom. So he got up and went back to his father. While he was still a long way off, his father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. So his father was looking for him, longing for him, watching for him, as God does for you and me. And he doesn't act like his culture tells him he should. Because instead of standing off, making his son grovel, his father does the unthinkable. He runs to him, embraces and kisses him. He says, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I no longer deserve to be called your son. But the father wants him to know that he's his son. He says, quickly, bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And take the fatted calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast. Because this son of mine was dead and has come to life. He was lost and is found. Notice that the only one who's happy in the gospel is the Father. Everyone else is miserable. That's why I asked you if you were happy. The son is miserable. The older brother, yeah, he's going to be miserable too. Everybody's miserable. The scribes, the Pharisees, even the sinners. The only one who's happy and wants to celebrate is the Father. And he's the one that gave everything away. But he's the only one who knows how to love. Then the celebration began. And now the older son, who had been out in the field, and on his way back, nears the house, he hears the sound of music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked him what it might mean. The servant said to him, Your brother has returned, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. He becomes angry. And when he refuses to enter the house, insulting his father just like his brother did, his father comes out to plead with him. Again, shocking to the Jewish people, and perhaps even shocking to us. And his father says to him, or he says to his father, which is no way to speak to his father, is it? Now he's going to unload. Listen, look, all these years I've served you, and not once did I disobey your orders. Yet you never gave me even a kid goat to celebrate with my friends. Now that's a lie. You notice when we're angry and we want to impress our point of view, we usually exaggerate. The second son had his share of the inheritance too. But when your son returns, notice he doesn't say my brother, who swallowed up your property with prostitutes, for him you slaughter the fatted calf. We always know everybody else's sins when we can't recognize our own. And he says to him, my son, you are here with me always, and everything I have is yours. But now we must celebrate and rejoice, because your brother was dead and has come to life. He was lost and is found. Notice that everybody who's miserable in this gospel story has lost touch with their relationship with each other. The Father always recognizes his sons as sons. They don't recognize their relationship to their Father or to each other. What distracts them? Their own desires for their own selves. If the older son just stayed home so he could brag to his father, how many of us say, well, I go to Mass every week, I may even go to Mass every day, I pray the rosary, but what about these other people? We can be very self-righteous and unwelcoming and unkind. And we can get so caught up in things. My parish and those people. We celebrate a lot of funerals. But it's sad to celebrate a funeral when some relative has not talked to their parent, or their parent hasn't talked to them for years. You know how often that happens? And they're miserable. They're not happy. The only one who's happy is the Father, because he gives everything he has away. And he cares about his sons. And he's humble enough to go to them and plead with them. We never know if the older brother enters the party. And we never know if the younger son ever accepts being a son again. But we know it is the desire of the Father that they both come home. And it is the desire of our Heavenly Father that we are truly his sons and daughters. And what is our inheritance? Everlasting life. What makes us sad? That this life isn't perfect. We don't have everything we want. We didn't win the Powerball. But we are far richer than we realize. We are far more blessed than we realize. In a few moments, when we receive the body and blood of our Savior, we should be filled with such joy. The Gospel of the Lord. I believe in one God,